Hello everybody, I am Jared Ross, the GeneaVlogger, and welcome back to another Professional Genealogist Reacts. On today's video, I will be watching Patrick Stewart gets a bird's eye view of Operation Dragoon from Who Do You Think You Are? This is part 6 of our series following Patrick Stewart on Who Do You Think You Are? At least just the clips, so we're not getting everything, for those who weren't quite sure about that. In the last episode, Patrick Stewart learned a bit more about his father's experience in 1940, May 1940, that he and the Coilies had to hold off the Germans while the rest of the Brits kind of escaped, and that he was one of the last ones to escape. And then he found an article, which was in a newspaper that he had actually worked for 15 years later. But the article was about his father and his father coming back and experiencing shell shock. So on this episode, I'm guessing we're going to look further into his service, because that was May 1940 that we last saw. And now we know he's going to be continuing until the end of the war, I think, 1945. I'm pretty sure is the date that he gave. So I don't know when in the war this will be, but I'm sure it'll be past 1940. I'm not really going to say much else, but before we do jump into the video, please be sure to give this a like. That really does help me out. Also, be sure to subscribe and click that bell for notifications on future videos. But with all the fun stuff said, let's go ahead and watch the video.
Bob has organised for Patrick to meet 92-year-old Dick Hargreaves,
Awesome.
who served with Alfred on Operation Dragoon.
This is always the coolest, when they get somebody who is still alive who knew the person's parents or grandparents or whoever it is. So this should be good.
Dick is taking Patrick by helicopter over the very area where he and Alfred jumped in August of 1944.
And before we get into it, I should also mention that if you're doing your own genealogy research, trying to reach out to people that knew your ancestors, or even if their ancestors knew your ancestors, you never know what they might have. I mean, just imagine all the stories and information you know about random friends or neighbors of your family, and then imagine what other people might know who knew your family back then. So not only is it very cool to watch this in, Patrick Stewart meeting someone in that way, but it's also a great way for you, if you're doing genealogy research, to try to reach out. In genealogy, we actually call it the FAN method. FAN standing for either family, associates, and neighbors, or some people say friends, associates, and neighbors, but really it's kind of all of it together.
We left Rome at 1 o'clock in the morning and flew for 4 hours in the dark.
And were you able to distinguish the terrain?
No, because there was a ground mist when we came in over the sea. We had some light attack from the German coastal batteries, and there was a ground mist here, and we all thought we were jumping in the sea. But, your father and brigade headquarters all landed in the proper dropping zone.
Alfred and the defence platoon landed near the town of Lemuy shortly after 4 a.m.
My father and the headquarters group were all landing right here,
Yes?
all around this area.
Yeah. You see the rocky hill over there?
Yes.
Well, we had people dropped onto that in the dark, hitting the
Wow.
rocks, breaking legs and arms and worse.
Yeah.
When the green light comes on, you've got to jump. This is about the height we jumped.
It seems very low.
Yeah, well, the lower the better, because you get shot at. You don't want to float about with the Germans having a pot at you.
Alfred's objective was the hamlet of Le Mitain, where he was to secure the buildings earmarked for the Allied headquarters.
I set off to capture that high ground and running into Germans. And we had to kill them and clean them up, but they were in 10s and 20s, And we sent the German prisoners all back to Le Mitain, where your father eventually was. There was a German prisoner of war cage there, and I'm sure your father would have been involved.
I'm sure he would.
Keeping an eye on them. The thing that amazed me about your father is his age, you know. To volunteer to 38 to become a parachutist, you know.
Yeah.
I did it when I was 21, you know, when you feel a bit more like it.
All right, that was a really good episode. Real quick, I say episode clip. We kind of did a big jump from the last clip to this, which is what happens, unfortunately, when you're only watching clips, which, you know, I'm worried about doing full episodes because I get a lot of different problems with copyright claims, and I haven't had copyright claims with the clips. Well, I've had copyright claims, but they all get released. But anyway, this was really good. Very interesting story. From a genealogical standpoint, the thing that I'd probably be doing if I was researching this is the first thing is being online, Ancestry.com, Family Search, and especially Fold 3 when you're dealing with military stuff. So go in and try to find any sort of records, enlistment records, especially because we know that his father enlisted before the war when he was younger. I think it was like 1925. So there might be records dating back to then, and then probably records about dealing with World War II. But on top of that, things that you might do is, he was part of the Coilies, so look into what materials are out there about the Coilies, and you never know what might be in there, because kind of like how they found someone who was dropped with his father. At the same time, you might find all sorts of writings and things that might actually reference his dad, and he might not even really know it. Because it can be simple things. Maybe he's just called Sergeant Stewart in some, diary of someone or something. So from just a genealogy standpoint, there's a lot of ways you can go about doing things. And, the coolest thing of all is to be there, be where it happened, to see it all. And then, of course, to have someone who was actually there with your ancestors to tell you all about what was going on where. It's all, that's like genealogist dream, which is one of the really cool things about Who Do You Think You Are versus Finding Your Roots. Well, I do really love Finding Your Roots. I think it's probably one of the best, if not the best, which my top 5 a few years ago, I made it the best, but I'm not sure if I'm quite there still. But with Finding Your Roots, they're just sitting in a room talking to Skip Gates. With this, they're going out, they're meeting specialists and archivists and, people who know that history, and even more, going to the places and talking with people that were actually there as well. We only have 2 more clips for this, for the Patrick Stewart series. I'm guessing it's going to continue talking about his father's service. I don't know what dates this was. They didn't seem to mention it at this point. They probably mentioned it in the parts that not included in the clip. But if he was dropping into France, I'm guessing this was after 1944. So with the next one, I wonder if it'll go into kind of when his dad got back from the war or when the war was over. Well, thank you so much for checking out this video. I do hope that you enjoyed. If you did, please be sure to give it a like. That really does help me out. You can also click right about here if you'd like to subscribe. It is completely free to do so. And if you'd like to get access to content early, or even get access to exclusive content, be sure to become a patron of mine on Patreon. And not only will you get all that access, but you'll also be helping out in supporting the channel. And you can also follow me on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram at GeneaVlogger. I'm the GeneaVlogger. See you in my next video.